Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Pavita audio experience. If you are a regular listener, welcome back. If you are new, welcome for the first time. I am Josh, and today I have a little story from back in the day when I was in Australia, which I think could help you out today, or help you in some way today, help you in a different way. A good mindset to take into your week after hearing this, anyway. You may adopt it already, but let's see. So I need to get this date right. I'm not too sure though. I was definitely there in 2014. I think I was there a year and a half before 2014, so give or take around that time. I had my 21st birthday there, and I love Australia. Australia, I could have moved to. Yeah, I was very, very close to thinking I could live in Sydney. I'm from the UK, so it's far, but everything's a day away, right? Give or take. But Australia is pretty far. Anyway, I could live there. I could have lived there at the time. Sydney is amazing, and I spent lots of time traveling around Sydney, the East Coast mainly. I spent a bit of time on the West Coast towards Perth, and then Broome, actually, randomly in Broome, and then back into the outback, then to Darwin, then back to Sydney. So I was there for about a year and a half, all in all. I won't give you the grand story of my whole trip, but I do want to fill you in on the latter part of it, when I was working in a pretty cool restaurant right on Darling Harbour. There's a group of restaurants, and they're owned by the same, I can't remember the name of them, same group of people anyway. What do you have? You got Adria, is it Adria? Adria, and the place I worked, Nick's Seafood, and then they had others opposite to where I worked as well. So they had about 5 to 6. And it was coming to the end of my trip. Well, I thought it was coming to the very end of my trip because I was running out of money and I really needed a job. So I was applying to loads of different places, anything really, anything which I could get any sort of work. When you're traveling around, like especially Australia, it's expensive. So when you have no job there, it's like, yeah, you're on thin ice. You're on thin ice a lot. So at the end, I was like, I am desperate here. Anyway, sent out loads of CVs, and randomly the place that I ended up working got hold of me and asked for an interview. It was for waiting, so I assumed, they might check me out, see how I work for one shift, and then I either get the job or don't. But I rocked up, and this wasn't just a single interview. It was, if we like you today, you're going to stay on for 3 weeks and have interviews for 3 weeks, and we're going to watch how you work. So straight away I went, and there was about 30 people. So straight away I was like, what sort of interview is this? And sat down, and they were telling, basically, there'll be 2 of you who get this job, and I think half of them, 3/4 of them, were travelers. So half of them probably didn't care. I don't think half of them turned up after that first day, but that's besides the point. But anyway, they were saying 2 people will get the job, and that's it. And in my mind, I kind of, for the first time ever, I was thinking, well, no, that's a lie. I did a lot of sport growing up, and I was a sprinter. So I had the mindset of always wanting to win. But I was put in a situation where it was like survival, because I was running out of money, and I needed a job. I needed to find some money. So I thought in my mind, if this is going to be 3 weeks, I think they paid you a little bit after the first week if you stuck around. But in my mind, I was like, this is kind of the first time where I've put in a situation of survival. So it was the first time my mind went to a place of kind of do or die. And it was the first time my mind said, one of those 2 people will be me. And at that point, I stuck at it. I was like, okay, I'm going to stay the course here for 3 weeks. That isn't the mindset tip, by the way. It's just running you through my train of thoughts at the time. So that day, I can't remember what happened. And then let's forward 3 weeks. And it was down to me and another guy. So I stuck to my word. And it was at the restaurant Adria. And prior to that, they'd see how you moved and see how you walked and, chatted to people, etc. And it was me and this one guy on the evening of, let's say, the final. And I was chatting to him, let's say, me to you. And then the big bosses came over and then was about to start the shift with us. And then turned around, this guy had left. So it was just me. I automatically won this place, but it wasn't a straight win. They then saw me work for 3 hours. I was pretty perplexed though. What was the point for this guy spending all that time, 3 weeks, to suddenly give up? Maybe I intimidated him, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, got the job and then worked there for, I think it was about 6 months. And it was the first job which I experienced true professionalism. It was the first job where I had managers who didn't bark down your neck, or whatever the phrase is. What's the phrase? Bark down your face? I think I'm making it up. They didn't bark at you if you did something wrong. Let's say you put an order in wrong. They didn't have a go at you. I mean, maybe if you did it like 5 to 10 times, they'd probably pull you aside and get you to sort your stuff out. But it was a case of guiding you the right way. So it was the first time I experienced professionalism. And it wasn't like a Mickey Mouse restaurant. They were doing, when I started working there was about 950 plus covers a night. So it was a big deal restaurant right on Darling Harbour. Beautiful area. So it wasn't, they took it very seriously, and they had, affluent people come in, and they all had their yachts out in front as well. So it was an expensive area. So they had to treat it like that, very professional. And as I worked there, I got to see their style of teachings more and more. And I soon realized why it was a 3-week interview, because it wasn't just you were serving tables. It was everything. It was everything from the way you walk to the table, from everything from the way who you serve first, obviously the woman first, but how you position yourself. It wasn't a case of just serving food. You'd serve the food in a certain way with your hands. It sounds a little bit pretentious, but it really isn't, because these small things you take away forever. And I was working right on the front where people came in the door. And that was a learning curve, because you had hundreds of people flocking in at any one time. So it was a high pressure job. So I learned loads. But the one thing I did learn was they had an attitude. It was kind of a value, or I guess a culture that they had built. They always thought of the next person. So if you took a tray, so the drink trays people carry around, if you took a tray, you had to think of the next person, thinking of efficiency. So if you took the tray, because all the trays, they line up on top of each other. And if you take the tray, and if it isn't in a certain position, it's awkward for the next person to take away. So if you took the tray, what you then have to do is turn the tray over for the next person. So you're thinking of the next person. That was one thing. If you were walking past someone, you'd always have to acknowledge them. That was another culture thing that they taught. If you were picking food from the pass, you'd have to... What was the rule there? It was something about acknowledging the chefs in a certain way anyway. And again, this isn't being pretentious and very sounds a bit rigid there. It was really cool, because these are the lessons that I've taken away forever. But the main lesson there is to always think of your fellow human. And this actually goes back to indigenous roots. So indigenous peoples around the world, I can't remember the specific cultures. I'm not sure Aboriginal Australians, maybe to some level. But I think in Native America, they actually think 7 generations before them. 7 generations after. So everything they do, whatever thing they do in nature, with their family, within the tribe, within the community, whatever action that they take, they think in their mind, will this impact, or what impact will this have in 7 generations? I can't even comprehend that. I can't even think 7 generations ahead. Thinking of 1 generation ahead is hard enough. But this goes back way to deep-rooted history. So it's deep-rooted in us to think of another human being. So those little acts of me turning the tray over for the next person, those little acts of me acknowledging the chefs at the pass, those little acts of acknowledging my fellow staff as we walked past each other, and there was many others. But I've taken that away forever. Now, as I, walk past someone in the street, it's ingrained in me to acknowledge, say hi. I mean, I grew up in Cornwall anyway, so people tend to say hello there. If you're in the cities, good luck. But those small things that I learned there, still in me today to look out for a fellow human. And this could be literally anything. This could be smiling someone as you walk past in the street, even though if you're in a bad mood. This could be reaching out to your friend, even when you don't want to, but you know they're struggling, or you know they may be feeling down at the minute. A simple text. This could be anything from acknowledging or striking a conversation up to the person who is serving your food at the restaurant, or checking you out at the supermarket, whatever the case. Because remember, we're social beings, we're human beings, and we get dopaminergic satisfaction when we engage with another person, with another human being. Dopaminergic is our dopamine and serotonin loop system. So when we acknowledge with another human being, you feel very good. If you have a good conversation with someone in the street, they could be a random, but you know that feeling after where you think, that was really cool, that was nice, I should do that again. I didn't have that for 8-9 years in London, but it's nice to have that again. That's why Australia is so cool, because you get that so much. Everyone's outdoors, everyone's generally happier. It's a very cool place to be. Where was I? So yes, when you, like I was saying, you know that feeling when you've engaged with another person. So I guess that's the mindset to take away today. For your own mental health, for your own health, and for someone else's. It's that law of reciprocity. If it helps you, in this case anyway, it's going to help another person. That simple hello. They may need that. You never know how far a smile can go. I remember in London, another story, I was sitting on a bench outside a hospital, London Bridge Hospital, and a lady was being wheeled past in her wheelchair. She had a hospital, I guess, ventilator or something basically attached to her to keep her alive. And as she was wheeled past, I simply said hello. And obviously didn't really think of anything of it. And then about 15 seconds later, she stopped and then came back and then said, "You don't know how much that means to me. Everyone else, or people around here, just stare at me." And I was like, wow, really? Like a simple hello. So a simple hello can change the direction of someone's day. A simple smile can change the way someone thinks about themselves. A simple exchanging of words when you're at the shop can boost your dopamine, boost their dopamine. So it's a very simple way that we can actually help each other out. And this isn't wishy-washy stuff. This is brain science. This is science. When we connect with each other, it sparks a deep thing inside of us, the social brain. And this naturally gives us a boost of health, mental and physical health. And there's actually really interesting studies. There's a thing in our body called tachykinin. And tachykinin is essentially there to let us know when we're not being social enough or haven't had interactions lately which are loving and caring, etc. So when you haven't had too much social time or at least engaging with another human being, we tend to get very down, lonely, and it can lead to depression. There's even a pandemic right now of loneliness, so we need this more than ever. A simple connection to one another. So I guess that's, in fact, I'm not guessing. It is what I am guiding you to take away today. A hello as you walk past someone, a conversation, etc. I've already touched on the points, but try to take that away. Try to take that social connection point away. If you're feeling down at the minute, if you've had a tough week, if things are going wrong, if you're feeling lonely at the minute, whatever the case, try to make a little pact with yourself to strike up more conversations, to give more smiles out, to say hello more to someone. I'll leave it up to you how you do this, but think of that social connection this week. Think about what you can do, because it's going to boost your brain health. It's going to boost your mental and physical health. But I guess the good thing about this is you're automatically, instantly helping another human being. And if 2 people do that enough, then another 2 people will do that, and then another 2 people. Then it's a multiplier effect. And then we have a world full of social heads. But I hope you enjoyed that story. It's something which has stuck with me, and when I'm feeling grumpy or I don't want to see people, I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to say hi to someone who's checking me out at the supermarket, but by the way, or checking me out on the street. Sometimes I don't want to do that. But this story always plays in my mind to help to connect with another human being, to always look out for another human, because it's good for us. It's good for our health, physical and mental. So that's the little, not homework, I don't want to sound like a teacher. That's something to keep on the top of your mind as you head into another week, whenever you're going to listen to this. And I hope you enjoyed today. See if you can add some more social connection into your week to boost your physical and mental health and someone else's. Thanks for your time. I will tell you the rest of the Australia trip another time. There's a few more stories, and they're not as pleasant as that one. Until next time, though, thanks for your time. If you are new, remember to follow the show. Every Monday, I do a new mindful meditation. And if you're new, it's going to be a very good start for you to just develop your mindfulness and breathing routine. Thanks for your time, and catch up soon.